Mr. Speaker, I believe it was a strategic move, perhaps even a master stroke of our Chief Whip, to have been able to locate the Honorable Prime Minister in the slot that he was put. Because in addition to his known eloquence and gift of gab and gaff, he has been able to successfully destroy the hand and the useless talk of his not opposite number, because the opposition leader can be equal to the Prime Minister, of having to respond or rebut mostly the opposition leader. I'm on record as already saying that I wouldn't be responding to anything that the opposition leader says. And that is not out of disrespect. I find it difficult, near impossible sometimes, to even try to understand what he's saying. And since I am known mostly to be a technocrat, I'm not a politician, maybe he's speaking just to the wrong gallery. I've also been asked by my colleagues to remember that January 29th was my day when I spoke for 2 hours and 40 minutes or thereabouts. And that I should remember that today is Friday, and I should not day and repeat such an exercise for such a length of time. So I can say that my time that is left from the hour that I have could be ceded to somebody else. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to wind up these last 5 days of debate. And note I said wind up. I'm not rebutting. I'm just winding it up. Yeah. By first recognizing the hard work of my energetic staff, whom, young as they are for the most part, have thoroughly enjoyed working with me. And I want to say to them, I thoroughly enjoyed working with them too. And I look forward to the restart of the exercise as we work towards the 2017 budget. I would also like to thank all 32 of my colleagues in this House for their steadfastness and support for Budget 2016. "31 colleagues, you will forgive me if I single out young, vibrant, and youthful Honorable Member Don Hastings, whose dynamic presentation on Wednesday night made us forget the late hour. I dare say that even though all of your support was forthcoming, the passion and fire with which you prosecuted your tasks were symbolic of your abiding interest in our country. We shall grow from strength to strength. I would also like to thank all the honorable members of the opposition, in particular those who were gracious enough to recognize that in spite of the prism through which we view the development of our country, we are all in it together. Mr. Speaker, we can only wonder if more of their presentations could have been as focused, constructive, and stimulating as Honorable Member Don Hastings, then we would not have been here at this hour. But as the young people would say, they didn't turn up. It will be remiss of me, Mr. Speaker, if I did not recognize your deftness and dexterity in guiding this House through, at times, stormy exchanges, some of which I'm aware tax your patience. However, your calm demeanor, even in dispensing stern warnings, was a balm to many bruised and inflated egos. Finally, Mr. Speaker, as it relates to the acknowledgements, by the way. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I wish to acknowledge the thousands of Guyanese for their love and support. Whether it is a letter or short note, a telephone call, a one-on-one in a bar or on the street, the staff and people I meet at my favorite supermarket, or the vendors in the markets, I express my heartfelt thanks and appreciation. Very often their reassurances, advice, and words of encouragement come at a difficult time, and most will not know how deeply I'm touched by their considerations or the extent to which they motivate me to go the proverbial extra mile. It's a tough job. And when called upon by His Excellency President David R.T. Granger, I did not hesitate to come out of forced retirement to serve. I intend to see it through to its successful conclusion. Mr. Speaker, permit me to quickly touch on three preliminary matters which I detected during the debates and which I thought I should make a quick comment. First, one was touched on by the Prime Minister. It seemed to me that some honorable members of the opposition have a problem with growing old, becoming elder citizens of the country. How else should one interpret their disparaging use of the word geriatrics, which literally means aged persons, when referring to cabinet and other members of parliament of the government? Mr. Speaker, as we all know, in the cycle of life, we are born, we grow up, we enjoy the brashness of youth, the warmth of middle age, and the swan song of our golden years. But it will appear from the contempt, derision, and wide criticism of selected honorable members of the opposition that being old is a disease to be scoffed and scorned. In their eyes, this group of Guyanese citizens who are protected equally under the Constitution of Guyana must be cast away or cast aside. I say shame on all of you for your miasmic inferences. This government consists of people who are not ashamed of their ages, not afraid of growing old. We are not preoccupied with gray or green, unlike those who are seeing red when they see green and yellow. We are a government of grown-ups, GOG, who bring unparalleled and unmatched experience from a wide variety of fields and pursuits, which is being employed in the single-minded, driven task of bringing the good life to all Guyanese. Sense and sensibility seem distant in what was once a powerful political party, now frigid and fatigued, fraying at the edges, but still exhibiting high degree of flatulence. Second, Mr. Speaker, the second matter I would like to bring to attention is this matter of a religious quote being introduced into the budget speech for the first time, according to the honorable member who flagged it, Madam Gail Teixeira. Mr. Speaker, this matter was raised previously by my colleague, Honorable Raphael Trotman, and I'm raising it again because in her presentation, I detected a subliminal message being sent to a certain segment of their constituency. In my view, Mr. Speaker, this is a dangerous and damaging development. One designed to derail our efforts at building social cohesion and unifying this country. Who would have imagined that because the simple but apt quote, "Let us rejoice and be glad," could have attracted commentary because it was quoted from the good book. Mr. Speaker, I think I'm now noted for wearing white short jacks, by the way. And I decided to wear, what color is this? This is peach today. I'm told I look like the Swami. And when asked, I understand they meant Swami Ascarananda, who I'm told actually went to school of mine. That's very good school, actually. So I'm hoping, and I'm glad that it didn't attract attention that I was wearing a color symbolic of some other person's religion. Because never in our, never can I have fathomed that a simple but apt quote, regardless of the book, would have raised a religious, hackles. But should I ask the question, is it now dangerous, politically incorrect, to source a quotation from a universal Christian book if, at the same time, you do not reference similar quotations from other religious books? Mr. Speaker, this level of reasoning belies rational thinking, even for a fractured society as ours. But, Mr. Speaker, it just goes to show the level of banality some House members' offerings in this House have descended. But I have some more to say about this later in the presentation. Third matter, Mr. Speaker, I think it has been said often enough that everybody is entitled to their own opinions, not their own facts. In this House, several honorable members of the opposition have been guilty of trotting out unsubstantiated figures. Take, for example, Honorable Member Anil Nandila. He said that the Lotto Fund had $28 billion. Yes. This figure has been quoted in today's Stabroek News. Quote, he added that the Lotto Fund alone has over $28 billion, but only $1 billion was transferred according to Jordan. End of quote. Mr. Speaker, ever since its establishment, I don't know whether, if you add it from since its establishment to now, whether the Lotto Fund would have had $28 billion cumulatively. But I asked for the balances, and it says that in year 2011, the balance of the Lotto Fund was $853 million. At the end of 2012, the balance was $1 billion. At the end of 2013, the balance was $1.1 billion. At the end of 2014, $1.4 billion. At the end of last year, after we would have taken out the $1 billion, the balance left at the end of last year is $0.5 billion, equivalent to $500,000. I think, Mr. Speaker, this, not only that the member knew that this was a patently false assertion that he was making, right? But it's becoming too often, seems to be the norm in the House today. This is the kind of falsity that will soon land another honorable member of this House before the Committee of Privileges. And I believe it's time to stop anyhow. The standing orders of the House must be observed by all members, by all members, by all members, because this is a tactic used by certain newspapers, and every time you try to get it corrected, you never do. You never do. And that newspaper is aligned to the opposition. And now they're bringing it into the House. We need to stop it. A related area to this, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy that Honorable Member Harmon brought a live person, right, who told him what she told him. A related issue, Mr. Speaker, is the frequency with which alleged stories of individuals who have been supposedly aggrieved for one reason or the other are being used by opposition members, and their stories being brought to this House.
Phantoms.
Such stories may be good on the political hustings, but I submit, Mr. Speaker, that when it comes to them being used to buttress arguments to advance a point, the authenticity of these anecdotes should be substantiated by signed affidavits by the persons to whom references are being made. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, you're going to find everybody here is going to come and say, X person told me this, Y person told me this, and so on. This cannot be a house where we accept those kind of inferences and anecdotes, especially when it's being used to buttress somebody's argument. Mr. Speaker, those were the three matters I wish to clear out of the way, and I thought more needs to be said about them, but I guess they will be in the Hansard and they can be looked at later on. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2016 has been a trending topic ever since its delivery on Friday, January 29, 2016. Judging by the reactions in the newspapers, radio, TV, and social media, this budget has stimulated the consciousness of the citizenry. Just for example, I looked at Guyana Chronicle, February 4th, 2016. It's entitled, People's Budget. Private sector hails 2016 as pro-working class. When last you hear private sector talking about a pro-working class budget?
That's right.
And this is some of the comments being made. The 230 billion budget presented by the APNU plus AFC government will set the stage for massive development in Guyana. This is in the words of Clinton Williams, immediate past president of the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association. It is a people's budget. Continuing the quote, it is a pro-working class budget. It sets the stage for the good life that the coalition government has promised the people of Guyana. And I may add after that quote, and we are keeping. Going on further, Mr. Williams said, the rebuilding of physical infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, airstrips, and harbors, is critical for the development of the country. Investment in technical and vocational education is critical for our existing manufacturing sector, and also for the mining sector, and the emerging oil and gas sector, among others. And you could go on and on. He adds there. Same papers, in addition to representatives from the private sector, the Guyana Trades Union Congress was among organizations that applauded the government on this year's budget. The GTUC has said that the government's decision to await the conclusion of discussions with unions before announcing salary increases for public servants ought to be applauded. So, Mr. Speaker, if the key partners in society, private sector, trade unions, members of civil society, others out there, are very much in favor of the budget. It's not to say that they don't have criticism of the budget, but their general view is that the budget is pro-working class, pro-business, and aim to put the country on a higher growth path. Then I don't suppose we have any need to debate in this House. You have the budget, you have the thing, then perhaps no need. There's probably no need to debate about 2016, for the opportunity to do so was not provided by our erstwhile honorable members on the opposite side of the House. Listening to the opposition members, you get the impression that they did not read the budget speech. Or if they did not understand it. We were treated to more of the same jaded, tired, worn-out mantras and messages. The budget is anti-poor. The budget has nothing in it. The budget has repackaged programs, and so on and so on and so on, we go on. You know, these messages are so familiar that you will forgive me for suggesting that in future it may save us time and other costs if we invite the opposition to simply submit their statements so that they can be read into the Hansard. Then again, they might feel a tinge of obligation to earn the pay increase they were given as part of the increases for all members of parliament, not just the ministers. All the members of parliament got the increase. And some told the public that they were going to give it. They weren't going to take it. They weren't going to take it. But my investigation has suggested everybody has taken it. I'm not saying what they're doing with it, but all I'm saying, everybody has taken it. Nobody's giving back anything. It may also be that they are going through the motion for the sake of their constituency. And I got this distinct impression from the honorable opposition leader, who this house did not have the honor of his presence during the reading of the budget speech, even though he was within the precincts of the Parliament building. Such disrespect for this honorable house must not be countenanced nor tolerated. His remark was that we were seeking to increase the unemployment of youth. My response was, man, if that is the only thing you can find to criticize me about this speech, then we must be doing something right. You know, you cost me and say, Winston, we couldn't get that unemployment. His press conference immediately after the budget speech was read, and is more...
Honourable Member, I ask you to bear in mind that Hansard might find difficulty reporting on the last bit of song that you made.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. You can blot out. They normally send it to you and I ask you what you said. So just correct it, or you can blot it out. Yes, his press conference immediately after the budget speech was read, and is more than hour-long harangue in this house today, continued the trend and made me more convinced that the opposition, led by its leader, had made up their minds about budget 2016, as they did indeed about budget 2015. In their minds, it is all doom and gloom, conjuring up conspiracy theories and adopting fear and scaremongering tactics. The lesson and reality of May 11, 2015 still seem not to have been grasped. Here, Mr. Speaker, I'm reminded of Pogo, the possum's quote in the Walt Kelly-created classic newspaper comic strip. Quote, "We have met the enemy, and he is us." Yes. End of quote. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, we are our own worst enemy. We continue to bob and weave, attack and counter-attack, play to the gallery, especially now that we have live television, radio, and the wider social media coverage of these debates. We continue to engage in old talk, as the Trinis are wont to say. And old talk you have heard for almost 2 hours. Is it more than 2 hours? For almost 2 hours today. Old talk. Budget 2016, very little. Old talk. The honorable opposition leader attempted to teach me economics. Attempted to tell me about economics, quoting Galbraith. I was enjoying myself, Mr. Speaker. In this house, you have to enjoy yourself, lest you fall asleep. I want to tell the honorable opposition leader, as he well knows. No, I won't tell him that. I won't tell him that. That in less than 8 months on this job, I have been invited by the prestigious Harvard University for the second time as one of only 10 ministers of finance to attend a 5-day leadership workshop. We will be sharing experiences. Obviously, I'll be learning a lot more than I'm willing to share. And I don't say this, Honorable Mr. Speaker, to boast or anything. I do not wear my experience nor my qualifications on my sleeve. Most of the people who know me know that. But I say this because I am serious and committed in what I do. And no amount of adjectives such as incompetence and unprofessional and all these kind of words that are being used by an individual whose, like last year's debate, I already gave a whole background where those words could comfortably fit the honorable member. No amount of those will faze me. Your works and what the people think about you is what is more important. The honorable opposition leader continues to talk about Amalio. What is it about Amalio Falls that causes this bull in a china shop reaction? We're not telling any untruths about Amalio Falls. We said a lot about it last year. And when I got up to make the intervention and to make the correction, is exactly what the body speech has. That in its current configuration, look, it's right here, actually. Chronicle, February the 4th, quoted me absolutely correctly. Though not consider it to be viable in its current configuration. That's what we said. We never said we threw away Amalio Falls, discard it. In the same budget 2015, we said we were working with the IDB on an energy mix. And Amalio Falls was one of the falls that was being considered in that mix. So how could we have said that we discarded it? Playing to the gallery?
You also offered it, they had a better
Exactly. As recent as December, we met with Norway together with IDB. But just before that, the president of the IDB met with President Granger in UN, at the UN. And Honorable Vice President, who was in that meeting, could tell you exactly what was said. And what was said and reported by the Vice President to us is exactly what the President of IDB told me when I went up there for his re-election for the 3rd time. They were happy to finally get away from this. They spent a lot of money on it, and it's just not viable. This was, so we have documents on it. So whatever he brings to this house and so on, dated documents, long ago documents, feel-good documents, okay, all right, we remember of IDB and so on and so forth. But as of now, IDB is not engaged as it relates to providing funding for this project. They were there in France when we were there December last year at the COP21 meeting. We were invited there to meet with Norway and IDB also. And there we said, look, we have never been against this project. What we're saying, this project is not configured in the way that will benefit Guyana. Indeed, we have all reasons not to even want this project. And a very good one is the one that Honorable Prime Minister came up with, this project got a tendency to dry up. So you're going to have a lot of redundancy. A lot of GPL can't give away those things. They have to keep it there.
Increase it.
Yes, because if the falls were to generate 150 megs, you have to have that to match when it's not there.
That plus 10%.
And can you imagine we're going to put the falls in, we're going to put the hydro in Essequibo, bring it all the way down to Demerara to share out on the coast, and live poor Essequibo. Doesn't touch a single place in Essequibo. How should the Essequibians feel? How should they feel? So, Norway says, and we agreed, to do a final review, to put the whole thing to rest. That is the stage we are at. They were here recently, a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. They were here recently, the ambassador of Norway from Brazil was here. We had a good discussion with her, and we are at the stage where they are giving us a name of a form that they will wish to contract. We have a difficulty with that name. And we are intent to tell Norway we have a difficulty with that name. So we're asking them, give us 2 or 3 more so that we could pick one. That's the stage where we are. And once we contract that form will come here and do the due diligence and the work and so on, which, by the way, has to be done before June. And then we'll know once and for all. So don't prosecute the case anymore. That is the stage where we are. And that was told to him by the Norwegians when they were here 2 weeks ago. Don't bring the case here. We all know this. You had big picture in the papers, he alone with the whole Norwegian team. That was told to us. So I think he's free to bring whatever he wishes to the House, but I think the House needs to know where we stand on this matter. So, Mr. Speaker, the central preoccupation of all of us is the achievement of sustained growth and job creation. Through the harsh and difficult times last year, we were able to steer the economy to a 3% growth. I think people don't realize the magnitude of that achievement. The previous year, from which the economy started sliding, and if they want to use the fancy word tanking, we had moved from a growth rate of about 5 around 2013 to 3.8 in 2014. And given all that happened in 2014, from the time Parliament shut down, to the time it was prorogued, to the time it was dissolved, to elections, to the post-elections antics of the opposition.
Honourable Member,
Antics?
I believe the word antics should not be part of your expression. Please proceed.
Honourable Speaker, is country temps a good word? I'm just asking because I won't use it if you say no.
The honourable member might wish to repeat the question he's addressed.
I'm saying if I could use the word country temps.
The honourable member cannot use the word antics.
No, I'm not using antics. No, I'm just using. Oh. Yes. Yes. So, given all that took place last year, I think it's a tribute to not so much resilience in the economy, because I don't believe our economy has much of a resilience, but I think it's a tribute to the management capabilities of the young government that came in, backed up by a strong performance and goal that allowed this economy to achieve the level of growth that it achieved. And the theme of this budget because of the 3%, because we are rebuilding, and as we were also said in the budget speech, there was some degree of loss of confidence by a number of actors in the economy. Most definitely the business sector. There was some also loss of confidence by the consuming public. So we have to restore that confidence in this budget, right? We have to build back that confidence, even as we stimulate growth to put this economy on a higher growth performance. Why? All the growth that we talked about in all the decades past, 9 consecutive years of growth and all these kinds of things. Unemployment is still one of the highest in this country ever. Jobless growth. You come here and talk about youth, and we're not finding work for youth. 9 consecutive years of growth you're claiming, and the unemployment rate, which you don't want to put out, by the way. Well, not to put out an unemployment rate that was backed by statistical credence. Anecdotally, the national unemployment rate hovers anywhere between 15 and 25%. And in some regions like Linden, it could be as much as 60, 70%. There are not much jobs there. Who are the beneficiaries of this so-called growth over the last couple of years? Who are they? Look around and see. Who own the palatial mansions? Who can't get water? Who can't even see light up to today? Yarrow Cabro, a scheme that has been there since the 70s. Many areas, no light, no water, no roads.
Coming this year.
Look at several communities. Where's the money? Where's the beef, the axe? Go look and see to find it. So what we are seeking to do in this budget, Mr. Speaker, 9 months, they had 23 years.
That's right, that's right.
And let me divert a little bit. I'm not as good as PM, but I'm getting there. They're talking about repackaged projects. This is PPP, that is PPP, and everything is PPP. We only here for 4 months. What you want us to do? Dump every one of them? I will tell you something called fiscal space just now. When this government came in 1992, 6.1% in 1991, 7.9% in 1992. They could only claim credit from 1993 onwards, because the election was October. So they couldn't claim that. 6.1, 7.9. All this thing you're hearing about how the economy had decayed and all kind of things. That is the two that they met. And this PPP government, in that 23 years, in the first 4 to 5 years, they were implementing projects that were set up by the PNC. Go check the records. We're not blaming them or telling them anything for that. It's the nature of the business. You can't just come in and dump projects, right, that you have already started. Loan funds have already been expended and so on, just because you have something called your projects. And by the way, if a project is started by the PNC, finished by PPP, who you think cut in the ribbon? You think you'll remember that the PNC started? It's the people who cut in the ribbon and getting all the praise and so on. And you know how well these people were when it comes to knocking out anything that the PNC did at that time. So what is wrong with these projects that they've borrowed money from, big money that you got to pay back? What is wrong with us continuing and finishing those projects that are crowding out the fiscal space that we have, that we cannot bring our projects in because we inherited all these projects? Many of them, enormous problems you have with them. CGIA, almost half the money, is that right?
Yep.
Already advanced. Already advanced. The loan is 130 million.
Yeah, 1 year 130.
130 million, half of 130, 65. 65 million US dollars already advanced to the contractor.
What?
Go there and see if you're seeing 65 million US. That's before we came in. Go there and see if you're seeing 65 million US dollars worth of work on the CGIA. Work step. The work stopped.
They had to run. They had to run.
Negotiating got to start back. $130 million project going nowhere. We inherited it. Credit to the youngster who's been able to put together something and he will be starting back soon. Specialty hospital.
Tell us.
Specialty hospital.
4.something million already.
4 million, 4 point something million. Down the drain. Down the drain. Honorable member met me in the food place. Winston, give me an evaluation report, bring me an evaluation report. I said, the thing was manipulated to give somebody who didn't even build a health hut, much less a specialty hospital. No, go and ask the evaluators and so on. Be under the deal, because you know the thing. But what is of no denying is that of $18 million loan, 4.2 million was advanced to surrender engineering, and eventually they were found in our courts to have defrauded us, and they've been asked to pay back $10-something million. We haven't heard from them since. And when we wrote the government of India and said, look, close off, we don't want this project anymore. It's not a priority. Let us use the money and build what are priority projects. 3 primary health care centers in diverse areas of the country.
So the people, 3 different.
Yes, look, they're talking about repackage project. We said we don't want it. They create all kinds of noise. They go to all different people to put pressure upon us to bring back specialty, tourism, this, that, all kinds of stories. The government of India, gracious as they are, they came back to us and said, look, you already expend 4 million. Nice word, expend 4 million, because they know works of 4 million. Why don't you continue with the specialty hospital? And we will give you another loan for $14 million to do the primary health care centers. We didn't look a gift horse in the mouth. We said, okay, we're getting 2 for 1 virtually. Before they didn't have the 14. By the way, the 14 million is not their loan. We go and get that loan. Right? For the 3 primary care centers. So, you have an $18 million project, by the way. When the $18 million loan was given to us by Inyo, there was no project document. There was no project document telling you it's $18 million is the amount that could be, to be used for a specialty hospital. You got a loan for $18 million. Then you had to come and design a project for $18 million. And that was about 2 or 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. At that time, $18 million could not even do, but you would stretch it. You take out 14 million out of it, 4 million out of it, leave 14. 3 years afterwards, who's going to build a specialty hospital for $14 million? But this is the kind of thing, the rabbit kind of thing. Out your hole, in your hole. 1 trick, 2 trick. You understand? So 14 million, they know, put the government under pressure. First, we project to bring back, repackage, right? Make political hustings of mileage out of it. Second, put them under pressure. Tell them go out to tender, right? That's going to delay for another 9 months or so, right?
No,
so meanwhile, you put them under pressure again, right? And so the whole thing is coming together. It's not only this project, it's many of the other projects. It's coming together, the whole strategy, right? The strategy is to frustrate the government, while at the same time saying the government is not doing. You understand? So they're in a pincer movement, right, from both sides. Well, the government has to decide whether it's going to be crushed by this pincer or crush the pincers. And so they can do what they want.
Yes.
The people who are aggrieved in this process, the people who are aggrieved in this process, who know about billing specialty hospitals, not this Mickey Mouse we building here, massive grantings all over the world. They came to our rescue. They came to our rescue. And they said, listen, we will try and see what we can do with the 14 million.
It's actually 13.8.
Yes, 13.8. That's 4.2 that took. Yeah. 4. Sorry. And so, these generous people came to us, said, listen, we will do it. Come hell or high water, we will do it. Right? Let's sign a memorandum of understanding to that effect. And then you got all kinds of people crawling out the woodwork. All kinds, and shapes and fashions, crawling out the woodwork. Transparency, accountability, this, that. MOU, not a contract yet. MOU for somebody who was aggrieved and wrongfully aggrieved in the whole tendering process comes to you and says, we will do it. No more. We want to do it. We want to show what we can do in this party world, and let be a demonstration. And Mr. Speaker, I can report to you, true to their word, as of this morning, they brought the designs using the piles that they met there. They were able to readjust a design. We met them this morning. So it's now a question of our consultants meeting with theirs to make certain everything is okay and so on and so forth, which can be done in another couple of weeks or two, a week or two, so forth. Then we move on to the stage of getting this contract in order and having the force pole go up in the air. And they will build a wonderful specialty hospital. But it's the old trick, run and hide. Talk that they don't want to build the specialty hospital because of the PP project, but at the same time frustrate the project so it don't happen. Because once there's a project, there's a demonstration effect.
Yes.
There's a demonstration effect, and you could tell the whole world the project was started on us, but it was built by this government. It was built by this government. And we have to make it work. And every project, whether it's theirs, ours, or whose, we have to do all that it takes us to make these projects work. Implement them on time and show the world what we are capable of. What we are capable of. So, where I'm concerned, I don't bother with the hot air and the hot noise that is moving. I figure, as I said before, by your works, thou shalt be judged. Not who wins the best debate and who comes out here blowing steam, fire and brimstone. It's your works that the people will judge you on. 5 years from now, you can't tell people you win a debate against the honorary opposition leader, or we were better debaters than them in the House. What have you done for me? Will be the question. And if you can't answer it, then we'll be old men and geriatrics. For real. So that this budget is meant to stimulate higher and sustained growth in the economy. And that's exactly what we're trying to do by spending $230 billion on policies, projects, and programs that will lead us to the good life, one that we expect to enjoy in a green economy. Our economy is being built so that it can withstand emerging challenges. Mr. Speaker, let us be clear on this. Our economy's experience of indifferent growth has been so for a long time, and I've made mention of that. Sure, this year will mark a 10th consecutive year of real growth, and we will achieve the 4.4%. So this year, once achieved, it will be the 10th consecutive year of real growth. And we should be proud of that achievement. We should be proud of that achievement. Mr. Speaker, in my opening in the 2016 budget, I said successive governments. I didn't leave out the PPP. I said successive governments from since 1966 have attempted to mold this nation. It's a fact of history. You can't wish away the PPP. They were part, and they still are. But we cannot continue to enjoin a group that still remains petulant. When they finish that, they may yet come. So our door will be kept open. But in the meanwhile, we got to do what we have to do. Right? We can't dissipate our energies chasing after an angry individual, an angry party, or a party who believes that the only time they will cooperate is when they are in the driving seat. Right? We cannot, juvenile behavior. Absolutely. So we will keep the door open, recognizing the contribution that they could make, and we are prepared to collaborate when they are ready. But in the meanwhile, we will continue to build this country. So that, Mr. Speaker, 10 consecutive years of growth is something to be proud of. Something to be proud of. Except that the growth remains susceptible to the vagaries of international conditions and the challenges of the domestic environment. We need to remove the structural rigidities that impact on the productivity and competitiveness of the economy. But let's be clear, Mr. Speaker, there is no overnight solutions to this. Establishing granite pillars on which our economy can stand strong, requires a long-term solution backed by comprehensive reforms that are resolutely implemented. The 2016 budget has launched a phase where we are seeking to diversify the economy, that is to try to put it on an unshakable foundation. And by the way, we're not saying that this could be achieved even in the 5 or 4 or 5 years, but you have to make a start, and you will go brick by brick, ensuring that the foundation is becoming stronger, right? What we have to do is stop this business of growing today, falling down back tomorrow, growing today, falling down back tomorrow, because in effect, we're not growing, we're just recovering. We're just recovering. I remember back in, I think it's May or June, when His Excellency came and made his inaugural speech to the Assembly. I had indicated, right, for youngsters who probably don't know, that there was a time when we were doing consistently over 300,000 tons of sugar. In the 70s, over 1 million plus tons of bauxite. In the 70s. Today, when you're doing 190,000, 210,000, 230,000 this year, 241,000, you're talking about growth. But how can it be? You were doing 300 something thousand in the 70s, 1970s, with productivity far greater than what you're doing here today. So we have to stop this business of stop, start, and start growing. Start growing. This is the problem we got, and we have invested so much money. People don't realize the amount of money that has come to this country over the last 23 years. We may not have been like Singapore, but we might have probably been halfway to Barbados per capita income. The amount of money that has come to this country in the last 23 years, check it, you will see. Billions of US dollars wasted, appropriated, and misappropriated. So where you are today, you grow 5%. When you check the growth, it is either sugar or gold or some other thing. None of these industries, growing as they are, can imply the kind of labor that is being in the form of school children, school leavers, university leavers, and so on. That is why you have this push out of migration. We are creating jobs. But the billions that have been put in this economy over the last 23 years, we should have been halfway to Barbados's good. Not necessarily Singapore's, but had we invested that money, what you have today, a lot of white elephants, 200 something million scaled on, plus another 60 million to get it nowhere. And you can look at all them, Amalia Falls, a road going to nowhere, 50 plus million US. and you name it, and more sugar factory packaging plant. But on the obverse, you could look and see have the palatial mansions. I say no more. So that the 2016 budget is trying to diversify the economy, trying to put it on an unshakable foundation, as well as restore confidence, and in so doing, reduce poverty and accelerate the pace of development. From 3% last year, the economy is projected to grow 4.4% this year. As state spending in especially infrastructure across the country acts as a catalyst to the construction industry, while lower fuel and electricity prices stimulate the manufacturing sector and boost consumer spending. Our growth agenda will build on more or less 4 or 5 broad areas. One, fiscal consolidation. We must have that. We must have a macro picture that is conducive and sustainable, conducive to stable economic growth, conducive to investment in so on. And it must be stable, as we said. You can't have, as I said, up and down. We have to have growth that people can use as a basis for the investment, spending, incomes, and so on. And that will create employment, not jobless growth. Growth that will create sustainable employment, not jobless growth and not temps or not pretend employment, right? Employment where people are doing productive work. So fiscal consolidation, and this centers on the maintenance of a fiscal deficit and a debt profile that does not impair the capacity of the private sector to fulfill its role as the engine of growth and the generator of employment in the economy. Already at 4.7% of GDP, that's 4.7% of GDP this year, the projected fiscal balance for 2016 is below that recorded by past PPC administration over the last 2 years. And and Mr. Speaker, let me deal with a little detail that has not been brought to the public's attention, as I said before, and I will just quickly go through it, the issue about fiscal space. Fiscal space is the amount of maneuver room that the government has to implement, let us say, some of its pet projects and programs, okay? So within a framework of a 4.7% GDP, it may mean that you can implement X, Y, and Z programs, except that you just come into power and you have all of these, if you want to call them rollover, to give you the sense of what I'm trying to talk about, rollover projects from the last regime, okay? So that space that you had before is now crowded out by the rollover projects that you are forced to do. So if you got a nice fancy project like a road to Letem that's going to cost 200 million US, even if you could find that money to do that project now would widen the deficit, and you have some problems started up. To put a program like that will require you to crowd out rather than crowd in, maybe a project or two that you inherited. And so that is the dilemma sometimes you face. And we haven't come here with it because they can say, oh, you make an excuse and so on. But that's the dilemma you face. To crowd in your projects right now, in the last 9 months, you have to crowd out projects that you came and met. If you want to keep a sustainable deficit. Sure, you could crowd in all if you want, but the deficit balloons. And a ballooning deficit, unlike the economics that my honorable friend did, right? Where he says, well, you could do 5 and 6%. Every deficit adds to debt. Debt is an accumulation of deficits. And a deficit is borrowed money. Unless, of course, you have a pot of gold like Trinidad or one of them, where you could run down your reserves. I don't know if economics is good, but it's a good thing you can say your economy is in safe hands. May not be Fort Knox. have to keep doing is widening that fiscal space in a sustainable manner and begin to crowd in our projects. You know, Demerara Harbour, they might say is their own too.
Yeah.
The new Demerara Harbour Bridge. Well, there's none there, and there's no project there. So that will be ours. New Demerara Harbour Bridge, road to Letem, extension to Kokwani, all these different things. Waterfront Harbour, there you go, 1 billion plus. Aerodromes and airstrips development, and all those projects that we're putting out there, getting the people excited. We're talking to the donors, we're trying to do work on our domestic fiscal capacity, because that is extremely important. Nobody wants help if you're not going to help yourself. And I will quickly come to that just now, because it seems if you're trying to make most, if not all of the people pay the taxes, is a big issue. You would have thought that this particular area would have at least got the cooperation and collaboration. Not so. It's a big issue. We're going to go to court. We come to it. Right, so fiscal consolidation, in addition to, as I said, keeping a sustainable deficit, you have to have a sustainable debt also, because you have to pay back that debt down the road, and that debt is obviously paid out of current income. Okay? And if more debt you have, the more amortization and interest, it means you have less available to spend on education and health and hinterland development and all these kind of things. So we have to have a judicious mix between debt we're creating today and the spending expenditure that we want to deal with. We have been accustomed over the last 20-something years to what we call ease of borrowing, which is concessional lending, right? Growth over the last how many years? Together, which people tend to forget, together with the rebasing of the GDP in 2010, together with the rebasing of the GDP that saw Guyana's GDP overnight automatically increase by 6 or 7% as a result of the rebasing, has thrown Guyana out of low income status to low middle income status. Well, you could clap. Because we're now low middle income, we're no longer low income. We're low middle income, we're going up with the boys. Except that it comes with disadvantages also. And one disadvantage is that you're not going to can expect the kind of concessional lending that you would have had in the past. And this is now facing Guyana as a frontal reality, that we will have to expect increasing what they call hard lending. Hard lending. And so we have attempted, and therefore, since we're still in this concessional mode, our access is very small. Whether it be World Bank, whether it be CDB, whether it be IDB, our access is not as the same as before. So we have to find other ways of increasing the lending envelope so that we could conduct our projects, implement our projects. And one of the approaches we are trying to use is broaden our range of donors that we are seeking funding from. And so sometime this year, hopefully by mid-year, we should be accepted as members of the Islamic Development Bank. Right? We're on the final leg at the moment. They're round-robining our application to the Board of Governors, and hopefully before the middle of the year, we will hear the good news. So that will open another avenue for lending from us, for us. All right? We have just had a lovely grant made available to us by the United Kingdom SIF program, where as much as 100, is it 100 million?
For us?
120 million US in grant funding will be made available to us to do a number of projects. And we are extremely grateful to the United Kingdom government for making this assistance available at a critical time. right, at a critical time. And we'll use other strategies, including what is called blending, right? Blending grant resources with loan resources to double the envelope and so on. We have already had two of these type of arrangements, one in respect of water and another in respect of GPL, right? Where the envelope doubled overnight. And I think the whole resources available to GPL right now is about 140, I think somewhere in the region of 140 million instead of maybe 70 that they would have been having access to. So that we are doing things to make certain that funding will be available to the country so that we could progress with our project. The thing that I will ask is that we, in terms of our public service has to be reformed so that we can implement these projects as quickly as possible and not lose out on both in terms of time and the quality of the projects that are being done. And also tax reform. Now, Mr. Speaker, just quickly, tax reform, we have said, I know what we said in the 100-day, right? Lots of things are said on the hustings. But and I think I always remembered the caveat being used, that whatever we say now is dependent on what we meet when we get into power. I seem to remember lots of time hearing that on the hustings. When you come into power, you see something different. Because this is not a country that makes information available. And the little that you get is literally like pulling teeth. It is easier to go under a root canal than to get information out of the last government. So when you come in now and you see the information that is available, the data that is available to you, you realize, oops, I can't do it. And unlike the opposition, which seem to have a thing about saying sorry, or listen, I can't do it, or coming back to the people and say, listen, it's not there, right? We're not going to do that hocus pocus. We went to the people and said, listen, we can't do it. We thought we could have done it, but what we're seeing in front of us, we can't do it. But listen, we have it in mind. We set up the tax reform committee. Let us see what they're coming out with, okay? This is the tax reform committee report that was presented to me on January the 18th, 2016. Okay? This report is going to be before our cabinet soon, although each member already has a copy. And we will be discussing this report because this report has some interesting recommendations. I think I had an interview with a newspaper where I referred the newspaper to the zero-rated goods now had to be in tax. Because you have to broaden the base. You can't ask for more zero-rated and exempt goods and then still ask for 12% and 6%. Because if you want to do that in truth, then public service cannot be made available. Somebody was scoffing today on the opposition benches that they said that after the elections they are going to increase rates and taxes. Well, how many years have rates and taxes have been increased? 13, 20? 1995? 95, 26, 21 years? 20 years. 20 years. Mr. Speaker, I'm not ashamed to tell you, I live in South Rhineveld, still a reasonable middle class. Not that I'm middle class, but still reasonable middle class. And the rates and taxes per year is $8,000. I mean, I don't have no palatial home or anything, but still, you can't pay, you see? You can't even pay your grass cutter.
That's right.
One time, to cut grass, $8,000. But a whole year, you're paying $8,000. And you are demanding every service that we used to get in the 70s when the money could have done with You're demanding services for $8,000. Demanding garbage. You know, when the garbage people strike, they come round and they do it at $500 a bin. 2 bins, 1,000. Some others, as the strike bites, they say $800 a bin. 2 bins, $1,600. Are you paying 8,000 a whole year? And then what? Some people paying 8,000 indeed, but they tack on a shop on it. So now it's half commercial and half residential. The tax is supposed to be higher. So you got all of those problems which you cannot hide. That's not nothing to do with political hostage. You can't hide. You can't say, well, look, the central government through fiscal transfers is going to give you the money. The first and foremost thing about the local government is that they must be able to finance themselves. The government will support, but first and foremost, they must finance themselves. And you can't finance yourselves if you're having 1995 taxes in 2016. And that's a fact of life. Let the people know. I always used to tell people, the day the mayor and city council start increasing taxes, we gonna ball. Because it's for 15, 20 years, whatever the case may be, we're paying the same rates, and today they are peppercorn. But we want first-class services for peppercorn rates. It's a fact of life. They have to go. Which brings me into the license. Most of these licenses that are being increased in the budget, they're not being done so for any revenue. I mean, they bring a little revenue here. Most of these licenses are regulatory. Most of these licenses here, the last time they were increased, I have the facts here, 20 years ago. Some licenses you just didn't bother. Because why bother? I see people kicking $10 now on the road. You know, people picking up $10 number one, put in your pocket. I see people kicking $10. One guy at me, I go to bend down to pick up the $10, right? And he laughed at me. He said, Chief, you pick up the $10, you know how long it went there? That is the reality. People got time with $10. Some of these licenses were, the rates were good 20 years ago, but 20 years afterwards, how can it be there? It's not worth it. That's why part of the whole enforcement became lax, because people tell you, why you want we waste time over this? The paper alone is more than that. So some of this, we either get rid of the thing completely, or we seek to move these licenses to some level, and there will never be cost recovery on them, but to some level that makes sense. So in many of these cases here, you check, many of these cases here, that is what we saw to happen. And Mr. Speaker, while I'm on these licenses, let me correct some things I know floating around in the press and that they have made heavy weather of. But before I do it, just let me read the little quote from the Tax Reform Committee that I wanted you to see. It says that there is need for greater buoyancy in the tax system, since revenue as a share of GDP had not risen very appreciably in recent decades. Weak tax administration is an underlying reason for this suboptimal performance and revenue fluctuations from year to year. And from year to year is partly due to economic and revenue susceptibility to external shocks. However, in recent years, excessive granting of tax exemptions, waivers, and other concessions, including VAT zero rating of most basic commodities, has stultified the revenue enhancement effort. Therefore, rolling back of such exemptions, waivers, and other concessions is considered necessary. This is the tax reform report, completely independent. I made certain that no government person was on it, so they don't say that how we may have had any biases or written in it. And then finally this, broadening of the tax base is required so as to both reduce the burden on existing individual and corporate taxpayers and enhance the revenue contribution of the hard-to-tax self-employed. The significant number of the unincorporated businesses who pay little or no tax, and those who make up a relatively large informal sector. Data provided by the Ghana Revenue Authority show that the value-added tax is not being applied across the country and is widely ignored by significant segments of the economy. These data also point to an appalling level of tax evasion among professionals, with only a handful of doctors, accountants, and lawyers reporting that they meet the minimum threshold of gross revenue of 10 million for VAT registration. That was two choice quotes from the tax reform report. We intend to study this, make it available after we study it and so on, and hope to begin implementation of the report, as we said, hopefully from the 2017 budget. Too many people. Oh yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as it relates to the restriction of vehicles under 8 years, please note, and the bill is before the House for passage, the restriction excludes heavy-duty vehicles, including trucks, lorries, vehicles used in the agricultural and industrial sector, and special purpose vehicles.
Repeat that part again for them. You need to repeat that part.
Only motor cars, SUVs, and so on will be affected by the age limitation. Secondly, Mr. Speaker,
Wicked.
I know English is a troubled language, very difficult, perhaps because it has some level of Latin in it. There was no measure called the banning of tires as yet. There was a notice of intent that was given in the budget speech of the eventual banning of these tires. When we do, it will be restricted to the tires for the same motor cars, SUVs, and so on, but not for tires to be used in the exemptions as it relates to heavy-duty vehicles and so on. Right? We're not moving to that level, certainly not in a hurry. All right, so I hope it's clear for those who have continued to be asked about it. I also hope it is very clear that the notice of intent to ban the tires, as explained just now, was meant to give whoever importing these tires and so on some notice, long notice, so you wouldn't come and say it was sprung upon you, right? So in addition to the fact of all the things we have said, the notice was given for that also reason. And then, of course, I talked about the increases in the various license fees, but let me tell you what is not known. And the bill is before the House, so it is nothing I'm making up. The bill had been circulated yesterday, I believe, into the House. And those who want to read can read. You don't have to be a lawyer, it's plain English there. As it relates to requirements for compliance with the Tax Act, prior to being issued some licenses, these will include hotel licenses, liquor restaurant, malt and wine, spirit shops, members clubs, and so on. Applicants will be issued with a temporary 6-month license. After this law comes into effect, applicants will be issued with a 6-month license if they are not compliant with the Tax Act. These amendments. So you get in a 6 months grace to put your house in order. However, they must pay 50% of the amount of licenses fee and will have 6 months to be compliant with the Tax Act. What does compliance mean? You have 6 months to put yourself in order as it relates for you to get in your taxes, as it relates to getting your taxes up to date, or that you would have made some arrangement with the Commissioner General that your taxes are up to date. So we're not trying to put people out of business, all this scaremongering and all other tactics that are being used. The Constitution provides that people must work. Honorable Member Nanla don't have to remind us. Most of us, if not all of us, know that. And we are obviously conscious of the fact when we were putting together these amendments that there was that right. That is why we also make arrangements. And what bothers me, Mr. Speaker, is you hear things like from the opposition, honorable opposition members, that we inconveniencing the poor man. We where they gonna find the money from to pay the taxes that they owe. Can you believe you are actually hearing these things? When the law, as currently in the books, says everybody must submit an income tax return by April 30th of the year following the year of income. Is this so hard to think? So now you find yourself in purgatory, as they say. And we, recognizing some of you might be in that purgatory, we said make an arrangement to pay. You will be issued your license. We're not taking away anybody's thing. So even though that you paid, you failed to submit your return, which is an offense, right? Punishable by whatever fine, 2% or whatever it is, plus the taxes, which will attract a late fee and all this kind of thing. That's a matter for you and the commissioner. Make satisfactory arrangements for payment. What is wrong? All of us who receiving salaries right there before we could even get it. Taxman gone with it. We pay for all of those people who either cheating the tax by not paying any or cheating it by filing false returns. And I'm tired of paying for people who are doing that. And all of us are tired of paying for people who are doing that. I worked more years than I could, and I still can't afford some of the palatial mansions I'm seeing today.
That's right, that's right.
I still can't afford. I moved into South Rhineville in 1986. I'm still there. 30 years afterwards, I would love to move out. Because every time the rain set up, I got my sandbags ready. I'd love to move out. I just can't make it. I just can't make it. But I see people
Overnight,
half of my age,
pool in the yard,
some of them in this house,
pool in the backyard.
who are living in mansions I would only pass by and wonder. I would love to live in them. I'm not saying, I'm not for one moment suggesting that they did anything nefarious. All I'm saying, I look up and I wonder, what did I do wrong? I paid my taxes. So, nobody likes to pay taxes. Nobody likes to pay. Everybody talks about tax reform and tax reform and tax reform. But when you begin to do the tax reform, everybody's saying, well, hold on. Let me think about it again. We've got to stop thinking and start doing. This budget is beginning of doing. And as soon as we could begin collecting the taxes that we know are out there, all the demands that are being made on us to reduce corporate taxes, to reduce income taxes, increase the threshold and so on, those demands can now become in the realm of possibility. But as of now, they will remain there, out there. It beckons, it's coming close. But we have to put the measure in it to bring it into reality. And these measures that we're putting in here are the beginning of the total reform of our tax system, which we promise and which we will put in place. Pain today, gain tomorrow.
Yes.
As soon as this base begins to broaden, we will see taxes coming down. But we must have equity. We must have equity in taxes. Must have equity. And many of us should put up our placards and say, we tired of paying taxes, we alone. Because it's coming out of your PAYE and all those other people there. What happened to them? They don't pay taxes and they demand the same set of services? I think it's something we were going to get knocked, but yes, we have to show we're strong enough. We're knocking back, but we have to put it out there why everybody should be paying their taxes so that everybody could earn and take the services. Right? And secondly, Mr. Speaker, no compliance certificate. This has been out there. This has been out there as a spinner, a political spinner, but I'm going to put it to rest today maybe it wasn't very clear, but it's here now. No compliance certificate is necessary when applying for licenses under the Tax Act. Now that might sound, so what am I saying? I am saying that, for example, driver's license and motor vehicle license are not governed under the Tax Act. So turn up and get your license. They're not going to ask you if you're compliant. They're going to get you another way. Not for driver's license and motor vehicle license. All this thing about, oh, you got a long set of lines waiting for driver's license and they can clog up the system and whatnot and whatnot. It does not affect certificates under the Tax Act. And since driver's license and motor vehicle license come under the Motor Vehicle and Traffic Act, that's all. Not the Tax Act. And it's here. We have put it out here. We're not hiding it. It was being shared out since yesterday. The media and everybody got it. Right? So, and as such, do not require compliance with the filing of returns prior to being granted such license. Okay? So, I know all this thing about we have reduced liquor prices. We have taxes on liquor. I think can you imagine a government reducing taxes on liquor? You see, but it's the strategy, I tell you. Put it out there so you waste your energy. Waste your energy trying to explain. Right? Whereas all the other things that you should be doing, they go on astray or they get left. I will not succumb to that kind of tactic. So, Mr. Speaker, coming close to my conclusion, I am saying that we must seize all opportunities presented and provided to put this country on a better footing. I wasn't a very good literature student, but now I appreciate report and literature.
Better.
Better. As Shakespeare wrote in Julius Caesar, quote, "There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, if taken at the floods, leads on to fortune. Omitted all the voyage of their life, is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves or lose our ventures." We got to seize the opportunity. We got to band our bellies together and move this country forward. This is what we have been elected to do. It is our duty. It is our duty. We have been in government for a mere 9 months. 9 months. During that time, we have made solid progress towards stabilizing our economy and our country. We have weathered the stormy seas. The restoration of public confidence is on its way. Now, we are ready to move our economy onto that path that will bring the beckoning good life closer to reality. I thank you, sir.